Imagine standing alone on an endless sea of grass where the horizon never seems to end. There are no cities, no castles, no walls, only wind, horses, and families who follow the seasons beneath an open sky. It is difficult to believe that from this quiet landscape would emerge an empire so vast that no rival before or since has matched its uninterrupted reach. This is not merely the story of conquest. It is the story of how one man's vision transformed scattered tribes into a force that reshaped continents and forever altered the destiny of the medieval world. Long before the thunder of armies echoed across continents, the Mongolian steppe existed in remarkable silence. Endless grasslands stretched farther than the eye could follow, interrupted only by rivers, distant mountains, and the steady movement of nomadic families. Here, survival depended not on towering walls or fertile fields, but upon understanding the rhythm of nature itself. Every season demanded movement. Every child learned to ride almost as soon as they could walk. The wind carried few comforts, yet it offered something equally valuable: freedom. In this unforgiving landscape, resilience became tradition, and tradition quietly prepared the foundation for one of history's greatest transformations. Soon, the steppe would produce a leader unlike any the world had ever known. Life upon the steppe offered little room for weakness. Families carried their homes wherever fresh pasture could be found, dismantling and rebuilding their felt tents with practiced precision. Horses provided transportation, food, and companionship, becoming inseparable from daily existence. The bow was more than a weapon. It was a skill cultivated from childhood, refined through countless hunts across open country. Leadership belonged to those who earned loyalty rather than inherited comfort. These traditions created communities capable of extraordinary endurance. Yet beneath this harmony, rival clans competed fiercely for land, livestock, and honor. Their conflicts seemed endless, but from these divisions would emerge an unexpected force for unity. To outsiders, the steppe appeared empty. To those who lived there, every valley and river held meaning. Clans forged alliances through marriage one season and shattered them through violence the next. Raids for livestock, revenge, and prestige shaped generations of warriors who expected conflict as naturally as changing weather. Trust was fragile, and power shifted with remarkable speed. Every victory invited another challenge. Every defeat threatened survival itself. Amid this cycle of rivalry, few could imagine lasting unity. Yet history often turns when disorder reaches its greatest depth. Across these restless plains, the early life of a young boy named Temüjin was about to begin. Temüjin entered a world where birth offered no guarantee of safety. His father belonged to a respected clan leader's family, but influence upon the steppe could vanish overnight. Children learned early that loyalty had to be earned, and enemies often appeared without warning. Stories shared around evening fires spoke of courage, betrayal, and survival rather than comfort. Every lesson prepared the young for hardships yet unseen. The land itself demanded constant awareness, rewarding wisdom as much as strength. Though no one could foresee his future, the trials awaiting Temüjin would forge qualities that later defined an empire unlike any before it. For countless generations, families beneath these same stars believed tomorrow would resemble yesterday. The herds would move, children would grow, rival clans would continue their endless struggles across the grasslands. Yet history often begins in moments too quiet to recognize. Somewhere beyond the reach of the campfire, alliances shifted, ambitions stirred, and destinies quietly converged. The steppe remained peaceful, only on the surface. Beneath its vast silence, forces were gathering that would soon redraw maps from China to Europe. The story of the Mongol Empire had not yet begun, but the world was already moving toward its arrival. The first great turning point in Temüjin's life came not upon a battlefield, but through an act of quiet betrayal. While returning from securing an alliance through marriage, his father, Yesugei, accepted hospitality from members of a rival Tatar group. According to Mongol tradition, sharing food established temporary peace, yet old feuds lingered beneath polite gestures. Before long, illness overcame him, almost certainly the result of poison. As his strength faded, so too did the fragile protection surrounding his family. On the endless steppe, the death of a leader rarely brought sympathy. More often, it invited abandonment, leaving a young boy to face a world that had suddenly become far more dangerous. Without Yesugei, loyalty dissolved almost overnight. The clans that had once followed his leadership chose survival over obligation, abandoning his widow and children to the unforgiving wilderness. For Temüjin, still only a boy, the lesson was unforgettable. Power could disappear in a single season, and friendship often lasted only as long as fortune. His family survived by gathering wild plants, catching fish, and hunting small animals wherever they could. Hunger became a constant companion. Yet hardship also sharpened determination. The steppe stripped away every illusion of security, quietly forging the resilience that would later define one of history's most extraordinary leaders. Winter upon the Mongolian steppe showed little mercy. Temperatures plunged, rivers froze, and every meal demanded effort. Families unable to move with large herds faced constant uncertainty, measuring each day by what little could be gathered or hunted. For Temüjin, these years were shaped not by luxury or privilege, but by endurance. He learned that survival depended upon careful observation, patience, and the willingness to act decisively when opportunity appeared. Such lessons reached far beyond childhood. Long before he commanded vast armies, he first mastered something equally important: the ability to persevere when nearly everything seemed lost. The hardships of youth would echo throughout every campaign still to come. Scarcity often tests families more severely than distant enemies. Among Temüjin's household, disagreements over food and leadership gradually deepened into dangerous conflict. Medieval sources recount that tensions with his older half-brother Bektir reached a tragic conclusion when Temüjin and his younger brother killed him. The event revealed the harsh realities of steppe life, where competition within a family could become a matter of survival. It was neither a glorious victory nor a celebrated moment. Instead, it exposed the difficult choices forced upon those living in constant uncertainty. Leadership, Temüjin would learn, carried burdens that extended far beyond the battlefield. Misfortune had not finished shaping Temüjin's destiny. As his reputation slowly grew, members of the Temüjin clan captured the young survivor, treating him not as a future leader, but as a dangerous rival. Bound within a heavy wooden collar, he became both prisoner and warning to others who might challenge established authority. Yet captivity did not extinguish his resolve. Instead, it revealed another quality that would later inspire fierce loyalty, an unwillingness to surrender hope. According to tradition, assistance from a sympathetic guard helped him escape beneath the cover of darkness. Freedom returned, but so too did a deeper understanding that loyalty, when freely given, possessed extraordinary power. Escape demanded more than courage. It required patience, silence, and trust in the kindness of strangers. Tradition records that Temüjin found refuge with a man named Sorkhan Shira, whose family risked severe punishment by hiding the fugitive until the search had passed. Their decision left a lasting impression. In later years, Temüjin would often reward loyalty regardless of a person's birth or social standing. This principle stood in sharp contrast to many steppe traditions, where noble lineage determined opportunity. His escape marked more than freedom. It revealed that compassion and merit could become powerful foundations for leadership, lessons that would shape an empire still unimaginable. After years marked by uncertainty, Temüjin returned to fulfill an agreement made during childhood. He married Berta of the Ongirat tribe, strengthening both family ties and political relationships. Contemporary sources reveal little about her personal thoughts, yet her influence would prove profound. Throughout the years ahead, Berta remained a trusted companion during moments of triumph and hardship alike. Their partnership reflected an important feature of steppe society, where marriage often reinforced alliances between clans. For a brief moment, life offered a rare sense of stability. But beyond the quiet campfires, rival ambitions continued to gather like distant storm clouds upon the horizon. Peace upon the steppe rarely endured for long. Seeking revenge for events that had begun a generation earlier, warriors of the Merkit tribe launched a sudden raid against Temüjin's camp. In the confusion, Berta was taken captive. The attack struck at more than one family. It challenged Temüjin's honor and threatened the fragile alliances he had begun to build. Alone, he lacked the strength to respond. Yet the crisis also presented an unexpected opportunity. To rescue Berta, he would need to seek support beyond his own followers, beginning relationships that would reshape the political landscape of Mongolia. Faced with overwhelming odds, Temüjin turned to diplomacy before battle. He sought aid from Togrul, the influential ruler of the Karaite Confederation, whose friendship with Temüjin's late father carried deep meaning. Alongside him stood Jamukha, Temüjin's childhood companion and blood brother. Together, these alliances created a formidable force capable of confronting the Merkit. Their cooperation reflected the flexible politics of the steppe, where loyalty often depended upon personal relationships rather than permanent institutions. For the moment, shared purpose united them. Yet beneath this partnership rested ambitions that would one day place friends upon opposite sides of history. The campaign against the Merkit ended in swift success. Coordinated attacks scattered the opposing forces, and Berta was rescued from captivity. For Temüjin, the victory carried significance beyond personal reunion. It demonstrated the effectiveness of carefully chosen alliances and disciplined cooperation between different tribes. Word of the campaign spread across the grasslands, attracting new followers who saw promise in his leadership. Reputation, once nearly lost through hardship and exile, began to grow with remarkable speed. Still, the greatest challenge remained ahead. Among those who had fought beside him stood Jamukha, a trusted companion whose vision for the future would soon diverge from Temüjin's own. For many years, Temüjin and Jamukha had shared a bond deeper than ordinary friendship. They were Anda, sworn brothers bound by promises of mutual loyalty. Yet as their influence expanded, so did their differences. Jamukha believed the ancient aristocracy should continue guiding the steppe, preserving privileges inherited through noble bloodlines. Temüjin imagined something remarkably different. He increasingly promoted capable individuals regardless of birth, rewarding courage, skill, and loyalty above ancestry. These competing visions reached far beyond personal ambition. They challenged the very foundations of Mongol society, making peaceful coexistence ever more difficult as followers gradually chose one leader over the other. Conflict became unavoidable. The growing rivalry between Temüjin and Jamuka culminated in open warfare, drawing numerous tribes into opposing camps. These battles were more than struggles for territory. They represented competing ideas about leadership itself. Medieval chronicles describe moments of remarkable bravery alongside episodes of profound cruelty, reflecting the harsh customs of the age. Though Temüjin suffered setbacks during these early confrontations, defeat did not weaken his resolve. Instead, each campaign revealed weaknesses to correct and strengths to cultivate. Unlike many rivals, he viewed failure not as the end of ambition, but as an opportunity to adapt before the next encounter. As his following expanded, Temüjin began reshaping the traditions of the steppe. He organized his warriors into units based upon decimal numbers rather than tribal identity, encouraging cooperation across old divisions. Capable commanders rose through demonstrated ability instead of inherited status. These reforms strengthened loyalty while reducing the influence of rival clan politics that had long fragmented Mongol society. Every warrior understood both responsibility and reward. Discipline became increasingly important, not only during battle but throughout daily life. What had once been a loose coalition of tribes slowly evolved into something far more unified, a society preparing, perhaps unknowingly, for unprecedented expansion. Leadership required more than victories in battle. It demanded communication across immense distances. Temüjin relied upon trusted messengers who carried orders between distant camps with remarkable efficiency, ensuring that alliances remained coordinated despite the enormous scale of the steppe. Personal trust became the empire's earliest network, connecting scattered followers through speed and reliability. Information often arrived before uncertainty could spread. This emphasis upon organization distinguished Temüjin from many contemporaries, whose coalitions frequently collapsed through misunderstanding or delayed decisions. Every successful message strengthened confidence in his leadership, gradually convincing more families that unity offered greater security than generations of endless tribal rivalry. In the early years of the 13th century, representatives from many Mongol tribes assembled in a great Kurultai, a council where decisions of enormous consequence were made. After decades of struggle, alliance, reform, and warfare, Temüjin was chosen as the supreme leader of a newly unified Mongol nation. He received the title by which history would forever remember him, Genghis Khan, often interpreted as universal ruler or oceanic ruler, though scholars continue to debate its precise meaning. For the people gathered upon the steppe, this marked not the conclusion of one man's rise, but the beginning of an era that would transform continents. Beyond the horizon, entire civilizations remained unaware that history was about to change. With the tribes united, Genghis Khan faced a question few leaders ever confront. How could unity be preserved once its greatest purpose had been achieved? The answer lay beyond the borders of the steppe. To the south and west stood neighboring kingdoms rich in farmland, cities, and trade, yet divided by their own rivalries. The Western Xia dynasty became the first major target of the newly unified Mongol nation. The campaign tested whether the discipline forged on the grasslands could succeed against fortified states. What began as a regional conflict would soon reveal that the Mongol way of war was unlike anything their neighbors had ever encountered. Many kingdoms measured military strength by the number of soldiers they could gather. The Mongols measured it by speed, coordination, and endurance. Every warrior maintained several horses, allowing exhausted animals to be exchanged without slowing the advance. Their composite bows, crafted from wood, horn, and sinew, delivered remarkable power, even from horseback. Orders traveled quickly through banners, horns, and disciplined commanders who understood precisely when to advance or withdraw. Rather than relying on brute force alone, Mongol victories often emerged from careful planning, deception, and relentless mobility. Against slower armies, they seemed to appear and disappear with the wind itself, leaving confusion wherever they rode. The settled kingdoms believed their walls offered protection against the horsemen of the steppe. For generations, fortifications had discouraged nomadic raids, forcing attackers to move elsewhere. Genghis Khan understood that lasting conquest required more than victory in open fields. His armies adapted with remarkable speed, learning from engineers, craftsmen, and captured specialists who possessed knowledge of siege warfare. Cities that once appeared untouchable gradually found themselves surrounded by disciplined armies willing to wait, innovate, and exploit every weakness. The Mongols did not abandon their traditions. Instead, they combined steppe mobility with technologies borrowed from many cultures, transforming themselves into an increasingly versatile military force. Beyond every battlefield lay another source of power. The great trade routes linking east and west carried far more than luxury goods. Silk, horses, paper, metals, ideas, religions, and scientific knowledge all moved along these ancient roads. Genghis Khan understood that controlling commerce could strengthen his growing realm as surely as military victories. Merchants possessed information about distant kingdoms, mountain passes, and political rivalries. Trade became both an economic lifeline and an invaluable source of intelligence. Long before the Mongols ruled the Silk Road, they recognized that wealth often traveled more quietly than armies, yet could shape history just as profoundly. The victories against neighboring states confirmed that Mongol unity had become something far greater than a temporary alliance. Yet Genghis Khan's gaze extended beyond nearby kingdoms. To the west lay the wealthy Khwarezmian Empire, a vast realm connecting cities, deserts, and flourishing trade routes across Central Asia. At first, diplomacy rather than conquest shaped the relationship. Merchants were sent with gifts, seeking peaceful exchange between two powerful states. Few could have imagined that a single act of violence would soon transform cautious friendship into one of history's most consequential wars. The greatest chapter of the Mongol conquests was about to begin. Genghis Khan initially sought peaceful trade with the Khwarezmian Empire, whose prosperous cities linked much of Central Asia. A caravan of Mongol merchants crossed the frontier, carrying valuable goods and messages of goodwill. At Otrar, however, the local governor accused them of espionage. The merchants were arrested, their property seized, and many were executed. Hoping to prevent conflict, Genghis Khan dispatched diplomats demanding justice. Instead of reconciliation, one envoy was reportedly executed, while others were humiliated and sent home. In the diplomatic customs of the medieval world, such actions carried profound consequences. The path toward peace had closed. A far greater storm was beginning to gather. The campaign against the Khwarezmian Empire demonstrated the full maturity of the Mongol military system. Rather than advancing along a single road, Genghis Khan divided his forces into several coordinated armies that crossed deserts once considered impassable and appeared where defenders least expected. Cities such as Bukhara and Samarkand faced carefully planned sieges supported by engineers, intelligence networks, and relentless cavalry. Some communities surrendered and were spared further destruction, while others resisted and suffered devastating consequences. The campaign remains one of the most remarkable examples of operational coordination in medieval military history, reshaping Central Asia within only a few years. Even as Genghis Khan remained focused on Asia, trusted generals pushed ever farther west, exploring lands few Mongols had previously seen. Their expeditions crossed the Caucasus Mountains, entered the grasslands north of the Black Sea, and defeated several regional powers through mobility and disciplined tactics. These campaigns gathered invaluable knowledge about unfamiliar geography, political alliances, and military capabilities. They also revealed that the world beyond Central Asia was far larger and more diverse than many had imagined. Although these expeditions were initially exploratory in nature, they foreshadowed future campaigns that would eventually bring Mongol armies deep into Eastern Europe. In 1227, during a campaign against the Western Xia kingdom, Genghis Khan died. The exact cause remains uncertain. Medieval sources offer differing accounts, including illness sustained during the campaign or injuries from an earlier accident, while later traditions present additional stories that historians cannot verify. What is clear is that his passing was kept secret for a time to preserve stability within the army. By then, the foundations of a remarkable empire had already been laid. The man who had risen from hardship upon the Mongolian steppe left behind a political and military system capable of expanding far beyond his own lifetime. The Mongol Empire eventually stretched from the Pacific Ocean across much of Asia and into Eastern Europe, becoming the largest contiguous land empire in history. Its conquests brought immense destruction and profound human suffering, yet they also fostered unprecedented connections across Eurasia. Trade expanded, technologies and ideas traveled more freely, and diplomatic contacts linked civilizations separated by thousands of miles. Historians continue to debate the empire's complex legacy, balancing its violence against its lasting influence on commerce, communication, and cultural exchange. In the end, the story of the Mongols is not simply one of conquest. It is a reminder that history is often shaped by people who emerge from the most unexpected places, carrying with them the power to transform the world.